Have you ever looked at your anniversary dinner? Just 2 plates, a small kitchen, no fancy restaurant, no sparkling lights, and quietly wondered, is this all my love is worth? If you are tired, doubting your marriage, struggling with English in America, and secretly thinking about giving up, this story might gently change how you see love, language, and the life you are building. Anniversary or disappointment? Is love still valuable if no one posts it on Instagram, if there are no roses, no diamond bracelets, no 5-star restaurant in the background, only a small American kitchen, a quiet stove, and 2 tired people cooking pasta together on their anniversary? That question sat heavily in my chest the night our wedding anniversary arrived in the United States. Outside, the suburban street was silent. No motorbikes like back home. No loud laughter from neighbors. Just the soft hum of central heating and the distant sound of a passing car. America can feel big and spacious, but sometimes that space feels like emotional distance too. When I moved here, I believed anniversaries had to look expensive. Social media showed rooftop dinners in New York, ocean views in California, surprise trips to Las Vegas. Meanwhile, my reality was a rented apartment, a tight budget, and a husband who said, "Let's just cook together tonight." Just cook together. That word just felt heavy. At the same time, my English felt small. I was living in the United States, but inside I felt like a child again. Simple conversations at the grocery store made my heart race. When the cashier asked, paper or plastic, my brain froze. My tongue moved slower than my thoughts. According to cognitive psychology research, when we feel stressed in a second language, our working memory becomes overloaded. That means the brain literally has less space to think clearly. I was not stupid. I was overloaded. That overload followed me home. When you struggle with language, you start doubting everything. You doubt your accent. You doubt your intelligence. Then slowly, you begin to doubt your relationship. I remember thinking, if my English were better, maybe I could work more. If I earned more, maybe we could celebrate properly. If we celebrated properly, maybe I would feel more loved. See how the mind plays tricks? It builds a long chain of if statements. Neuroscience tells us the brain loves patterns. It tries to create simple cause and effect stories, even when life is more complex. My brain created this story. Expensive celebration equals successful marriage. Simple dinner equals failure. So there I was, standing in our kitchen on our anniversary, staring at a cutting board. Tomatoes. Garlic. A pack of spaghetti from the local supermarket. No candlelight setup. No elegant dress. I was wearing sweatpants. Romantic, right? My husband smiled and said slowly, "Happy anniversary." His voice was warm. Mine was quiet. Inside, I was comparing my life to everyone else's highlight reel. And here is the interesting psychological detail. Comparison activates the same brain regions associated with physical pain. Studies using brain imaging show that social rejection and comparison can trigger the anterior cingulate cortex, the same area involved when you stub your toe. No wonder it hurt. I was not just disappointed. My brain was interpreting comparison as danger. But let me slow down. This channel is about learning English through real stories. So listen to this sentence carefully. Love does not always look loud. Repeat it softly. Love does not always look loud. Simple words. Clear meaning. When you practice English this way, through emotional sentences, you remember better. Emotion strengthens memory encoding. That is not poetry. That is neuroscience. Back to that evening. Part of me wanted to argue. To say, other couples go out. Why don't we? Another part of me felt guilty for even thinking that. We were immigrants building a life from zero. We had responsibilities. Rent. Insurance. Groceries. In America, everything has a monthly payment. Even happiness feels like it has a subscription fee sometimes. I picked up the knife and started cutting tomatoes. The sound was steady. Chop. 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 My husband turned on soft music from his phone. Nothing fancy. Just an old playlist we used to listen to when we were dating. The kitchen smelled like garlic and olive oil. Still, a voice in my head whispered, "This is not special." When you are learning English, or building a marriage, you expect big visible progress. You want fluency fast. You want passion strong. But both language and love grow in ordinary moments. Repetition. Small actions. Daily effort. I did not understand that yet. Instead, I was measuring our love with the wrong ruler. I was using the expensive ruler. Restaurant price. Gift size. Social media approval. But marriage is not a competition. It is a partnership under construction. Let me teach you a useful English phrase here. It's not about the price tag. Say it slowly. It's not about the price tag. In American culture, people often use this phrase to mean that value is emotional, not financial. That night, I heard the phrase in my head, but I did not believe it. My husband looked at me and said gently, "We made it another year." That's big. Another year. In a foreign country. Through visa stress. Through homesickness. Through my silent tears after failing a job interview because I could not express myself clearly in English. Maybe surviving together was already expensive. Not in dollars. In effort. I realized something uncomfortable. I was not really upset about the dinner. I was upset about feeling behind in life. Behind in language. Behind in success. And I was projecting that frustration onto our anniversary. Projection is a common psychological defense mechanism. When we feel insecure, we attach that insecurity to something external. In my case, the external target was pasta. Funny, right? All that emotional drama, because of spaghetti. But that is how the human brain works. It looks for a visible symbol to hold invisible fears. So the question became bigger than dinner. It became this: is simple love enough in a country that celebrates big dreams? The stove clicked softly. Water boiled. Steam rose into the air. And in that small American kitchen, between garlic and doubt, our anniversary began, not with fireworks, but with something quieter. I did not know yet that this simple night would slowly change how I see love, marriage, and even how I learn English. But that realization was coming. And sometimes, transformation does not start with a luxury restaurant. It starts with a cutting board and a question that refuses to stay silent. When English felt heavy. There is a strange kind of loneliness that happens when you live in the United States but cannot fully express yourself in English. You are physically present, but emotionally quiet. You understand maybe 60% of a conversation, but you only speak 20% of what you truly feel. The rest stays locked inside your chest. That was my daily reality during our first years in America. The country itself was impressive. Wide highways. Organized systems. Clear rules. People standing in line without pushing. Even the air felt different, drier, colder, more serious. But language was the invisible wall between me and everything I wanted. At the grocery store, I rehearsed sentences in my head before speaking. Hi, how are you? I'm good, thank you. Simple phrases. Basic English. But when someone asked a follow-up question, my brain panicked. My processing speed dropped. I smiled too much. I nodded when I did not fully understand. Later at home, I replayed the conversation and thought of better responses. Too late. Second language acquisition research explains this clearly. When we learn a new language as adults, our brains rely heavily on conscious processing. That means we think about grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, all at the same time. It is mentally exhausting. Native speakers, on the other hand, use automatic processing. Their brains do not struggle to form sentences. Mine did. And when your brain is tired, your emotions are fragile. I started avoiding conversations. At community events, I stayed close to my husband. He spoke more confidently. I let him answer questions. People would look at both of us, but their eyes often settled on him. I felt smaller each time. At home, that feeling followed me. Language influences identity. Psychologists say we build our sense of self through communication. If you cannot express your opinions clearly, you may start believing your opinions are not important. I caught myself thinking, maybe I am not smart enough. Maybe I should stay quiet. That thought is dangerous. It quietly changes how you behave in your marriage too. When you feel insecure outside, you become sensitive inside. Small misunderstandings feel bigger. A simple comment like, "We need to save money," sounded to me like, "You are not contributing enough." But that was not what he meant. Stress amplifies interpretation. The brain under stress activates the amygdala, the area responsible for threat detection. When the amygdala is active, neutral comments can feel like criticism. I was not just learning English. I was learning emotional regulation in a new culture. Meanwhile, American culture itself felt fast. People spoke quickly. They used slang. They shortened words. Gonna. Wanna. Kinda. In textbooks, English looks clean and polite. In real life, it runs. Let me share a simple sentence that helped me later. I need a moment to think. Repeat that slowly. I need a moment to think. This sentence became powerful for me. Instead of freezing, I could pause. That pause gave my brain time to organize thoughts. According to cognitive load theory, even a short pause reduces mental overload and improves clarity. One sentence changed my experience. But before I learned that, I felt heavy. Winter made it worse. The sky turned gray for weeks. The cold wind cut through my coat. Back home, winter meant cool air and sunshine. Here, winter felt like isolation. Climate affects mood. Studies show reduced sunlight can lower serotonin levels, influencing emotional stability. I did not know the science then. I just knew I felt sad. On our anniversary week, that heaviness peaked. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with my English notebook open. I was practicing pronunciation. Words like comfortable, vegetable, marriage. I recorded my voice and played it back. My accent sounded strong. I cringed. Accent insecurity is real. But here is a truth I learned slowly. Accent is history. It tells people where you come from. It is not a mistake. It is evidence of courage. At that time, though, I wanted to erase it. I wanted to sound effortless, confident, American. Because in my mind, fluent English equaled belonging. And belonging equaled stability. And stability equaled a stronger marriage. Again, my brain created a chain of cause and effect. When my husband suggested we cook at home for our anniversary, all these hidden frustrations mixed together. It was not about the food. It was about my fear that we were still behind. Behind financially. First winter in America. Snow looks magical in movies. It falls softly, people smile, couples hold hands under glowing streetlights. Real life feels different when it is your first winter in the United States, your visa is temporary, your English is unstable, and the cold air cuts through your confidence like a sharp blade. That first winter changed something inside me. The temperature dropped below freezing. I remember stepping outside and feeling my breath turn into visible white smoke. Back home, cold meant maybe a light jacket. Here, cold meant layers, gloves, boots, planning. Even the weather required strategy. Climate shock is real. Psychologists call it environmental stress. When your body is constantly adjusting to unfamiliar weather, your stress hormones increase slightly. Add language pressure, financial responsibility, and cultural adjustment, and your nervous system stays on alert. I did not understand the science then. I just felt tired. The days became shorter. Sunlight disappeared before 5 p.m. The sky looked gray for weeks. Without enough sunlight, serotonin levels can drop. Lower serotonin affects mood stability. That is why seasonal depression is common in northern parts of America. I did not know the term seasonal affective disorder at the time. I only knew that my motivation to practice English decreased. When motivation drops, discipline becomes everything. But discipline is harder when you feel isolated. In winter, people stay indoors more. Social life slows down. Neighbors close their doors. Streets become quiet. In that silence, your thoughts grow louder. Mine kept repeating, "You are behind. Your English is not good enough. You are not building success fast enough in America." Let me give you a sentence to practice. I am still learning. Say it slowly. I am still learning. That sentence seems simple, but it carries self-compassion. Self-compassion reduces cortisol levels, according to psychological research. When you speak kindly to yourself, your brain feels safer. A safer brain learns faster. But during that winter, I was not kind to myself. I compared my progress to immigrants who spoke fluent English after 1 year. I compared our life to couples who bought houses quickly. Social media made it worse. Snow photos. Cozy fireplaces. Smiling faces. Nobody posted their confusion at the DMV or their silent tears after failing job interviews. Meanwhile, our apartment heater made a constant humming sound. The walls felt thinner. Heating bills increased. In America, winter is not just emotional, it is financial. Gas, electricity, insulation. Everything costs more. Money stress affects relationships. Research from family psychology shows financial pressure is one of the top predictors of marital conflict. Not because couples do not love each other, but because stress narrows emotional bandwidth. When your brain focuses on survival, patience decreases. One evening, after checking our heating bill, I felt panic rising. I said quietly, "Maybe we should not turn the heater on so high." My husband looked at me and said, "It's okay. We need to be comfortable." Comfort. That word felt expensive. But here's what I learned later. Safety and comfort are not luxury. They are foundational. Maslow's hierarchy of needs explains that basic physical safety must be secured before higher goals, like confidence in language, can flourish. Winter exposed my fear of instability. At the same time, my English listening improved because I spent more time indoors watching American shows. I started noticing rhythm, intonation, emotional tone. Even when I missed vocabulary, I could feel meaning. That is how language acquisition deepens, through exposure. Exposure requires patience. And patience is difficult when you feel cold, literally and emotionally. One Saturday, snow covered everything outside. The world looked clean and white. My husband suggested we take a walk. I hesitated. I did not want to slip. I did not want to struggle with small talk if we met neighbors. But we went. Snow crunched under our boots. The air was sharp. The world was quiet in a peaceful way, not a lonely way. For the first time, I noticed something beautiful. Winter slows everything down. There is no rush. Cars move carefully. People walk carefully. Even conversations feel softer. That slower rhythm mirrored how I needed to learn English. Not fast. Not dramatic. Slow. Careful. Consistent. Let me teach you another useful phrase. Take it one step at a time. Repeat it. Take it one step at a time. This phrase is common in American English. It means focus on the present action, not the entire mountain ahead. Walking on ice forces you to live in the present. One step. Balance. One step. Balance. Language learning is similar. Marriage 2. Love in a different language. Love sounds different when translated. In your native language, emotion flows naturally. Words arrive without effort. You know exactly how to express disappointment, affection, sarcasm, gratitude. But in English, especially in the early years, love feels simplified. Smaller vocabulary. Shorter sentences. Fewer shades of meaning. That limitation shaped my marriage more than I expected. In the United States, communication is direct. People say what they mean clearly. I need space. I feel overwhelmed. I disagree. There is efficiency in American conversation. Back home, communication was often indirect, softened by context and tone. You could imply something without saying it directly. When I first moved here, I misunderstood that difference. One evening, after a long day, my husband said, "You seem quiet." Simple sentence. Neutral tone. But my brain translated it into something else. Are you upset with me? Did I do something wrong? Are you judging me? Language barriers amplify emotional insecurity. When vocabulary is limited, interpretation fills the gaps. Cognitive psychology explains this as ambiguity bias. When information is incomplete, the brain often assumes negative meaning, especially under stress. And I was stressed. My English speaking skills were still developing. So instead of explaining my feelings clearly, I said, "I'm fine." That classic sentence. 2 words. Heavy meaning. Let's practice it slowly. I'm fine. Notice how short it is. In American English, that sentence can mean many things. It can mean truly okay. It can also mean the opposite. Tone changes everything. I did not yet know how to use tone intentionally. So my "I'm fine" sounded cold. He looked confused. I felt misunderstood. Neither of us was wrong. We were just speaking different emotional dialects. Research in relationship psychology shows that couples who use clear "I feel" statements experience fewer conflicts. For example, I feel tired today. I feel worried about money. These statements reduce defensiveness because they focus on personal emotion instead of blame. But expressing "I feel" in a second language requires courage. You must risk grammatical mistakes while being emotionally vulnerable. That combination feels dangerous. One night, during our anniversary week, the tension finally surfaced. We were discussing plans. He suggested again that cooking together would be meaningful. I responded, "Other people go out." He paused. "Do you want to go out?" The question was simple. Direct. American style. Instead of answering honestly, I said, "It doesn't matter." That sentence created distance instantly. "It doesn't matter" in American English often signals hidden frustration. It rarely means neutrality. Later, I learned that many communication breakdowns happen not because of major issues, but because of small ambiguous phrases. Language learning experts emphasize something important. Fluency is not just vocabulary. It is pragmatic competence, the ability to use language appropriately in social context. I knew grammar rules, but I did not yet understand emotional nuance in English. So our disagreement was not really about dinner. It was about expression. I wanted him to read my mind the way he used to back home. He wanted me to say clearly what I felt. Both expectations were shaped by culture. Cultural adaptation theory explains that immigrants go through stages: honeymoon, frustration, adjustment, adaptation. I was deep in the frustration stage. Everything felt slightly off. Even humor. In my first year, I missed jokes. American sarcasm is subtle. Timing matters. When I laughed too late, I felt embarrassed. That embarrassment followed me home, making me quieter. Silence in marriage can be peaceful. But silence caused by insecurity feels heavy. One evening, after a small misunderstanding, I finally tried something different. I said slowly, "I feel disappointed. Not because of you. Because I feel behind in life." It took effort to form that sentence. I spoke slowly. I searched for words. My grammar was not perfect. But it was honest. He listened. Listening is powerful in any language. He replied, "I don't measure us by restaurants." That sentence stayed with me. Let's practice another phrase. I want us to grow. Repeat it. I want us to grow. Growth is a shared goal. When couples focus on growth instead of comparison, stress decreases. In American culture, there is strong emphasis on achievement. Bigger house. Better job. Higher income. That external pressure can enter relationships silently. I internalized it. I thought visible success proved strong love. But emotional intelligence research shows that long-term marital satisfaction is more strongly correlated with mutual respect and daily supportive behaviors than with financial display. Support is often quiet. The more I improved my English listening skills, the more I noticed tone in his voice. When he said, "Happy anniversary," there was warmth. When he suggested cooking together, there was intention. My earlier interpretation had been filtered through insecurity. Language does not just translate words. It translates identity. As I practiced expressing emotions more directly, our communication improved. I replaced "it doesn't matter" with "I'm not sure what I want yet." I replaced silence with "Can you explain that again?" These small shifts reduced misunderstanding. Second language couples often develop something unique: deliberate communication. Because speaking requires effort, conversations become more intentional. That effort can actually strengthen intimacy. During that anniversary week, something subtle changed. Instead of assuming, I started asking. Instead of hiding, I started practicing emotional English out loud. I feel scared sometimes. That sentence was difficult. But it opened space. He said, "We're building this together." Together. Another simple word. Deep meaning. In a different language, love may sound less poetic. Shorter sentences. Fewer dramatic declarations. But maybe simplicity makes it clearer. Maybe expensive dinners are loud. but honest sentences spoken slowly in imperfect English, that is real intimacy. And real intimacy does not require translation. Expensive date or empty heart? America is very good at selling romance. Scroll through social media for 5 minutes and you will see rooftop dinners in New York, luxury beach resorts in California, diamond rings under perfect lighting, couples clinking champagne glasses in 5-star restaurants. The message is subtle but powerful. If it looks expensive, it must be meaningful. That message slowly shaped my expectations. During our anniversary week, I kept imagining what a real celebration should look like. Elegant dress. Professional photos. A fancy reservation made weeks in advance. I thought that maybe in the United States, love had to be displayed publicly to feel valid. But here is something interesting about human psychology. Visibility is not the same as value. Behavioral economists explain that humans often confuse price with worth. This is called the price-quality heuristic. When something costs more, we automatically assume it is better. That logic works sometimes for products. It does not work well for relationships. Still, my brain tried to apply market logic to marriage. If he really loved me, shouldn't he plan something big? If we were truly successful in America, shouldn't our anniversary look impressive? These thoughts were not romantic. They were insecure. Let me give you a simple sentence to practice. Value is not always visible. Say it slowly. Value is not always visible. This sentence applies to English learning, marriage, and personal growth. That night in the kitchen, while cutting vegetables, I kept comparing. Comparison is addictive because it gives the brain quick evaluation. Better. Worse. Ahead. Behind. But long-term comparison increases dissatisfaction. Research in social psychology shows that constant upward comparison, looking at people who appear more successful, reduces life satisfaction and increases anxiety. I was comparing our private life to curated online moments. Meanwhile, my husband moved calmly around the kitchen. He chopped onions. He stirred sauce. He played music from our early dating days. There was no stress in his face. No embarrassment. No sense of lack. That difference in perception fascinated me later. Why was I measuring cost while he was measuring connection? In American culture, there are actually two strong narratives about love. One is consumer-based romance, expensive gifts, big gestures, public display. The other is partnership-based love, shared responsibility, teamwork, emotional support. The first one is louder online. The second one is quieter but statistically more stable. Longitudinal relationship studies in the United States show that couples who prioritize shared experiences and mutual goals over material display report higher long-term satisfaction. Shared experiences create memory bonds. Expensive gifts create temporary excitement. Excitement fades. Memory bonds remain. But in that moment, I wanted excitement. I imagined telling friends, we went to a beautiful restaurant downtown. That sentence felt impressive. It sounded successful. It sounded like we were winning at life in America. Instead, the real sentence was, we cooked at home. Simple. almost boring. But something unexpected happened as we continued cooking. We started talking. Not about money. Not about bills. We talked about our first year dating. We laughed about awkward moments when my English was even worse. He reminded me of the time I ordered soap instead of soup at a restaurant. I had forgotten that story. He had not. Memory creates intimacy. Psychologists explain that shared laughter activates oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Oxytocin increases trust and emotional closeness. No reservation required. I began noticing something subtle. The atmosphere felt relaxed. There was no pressure to impress strangers. No noise. No rushing through a meal because the table reservation was limited to 2 hours. We were simply present. Presence is rare in modern American life. Even on expensive dates, people often check their phones. Take photos. Post updates. Monitor reactions. Validation becomes external. In our small kitchen, there was no audience. Let me give you another English phrase. This is enough. Repeat it. This is enough. At first, that sentence felt like surrender. Later, it felt like peace. Minimalism has become more popular in the United States in recent years. Many couples are choosing experiences over objects. Cooking together can be an experience. Cleaning up together can be an experience. Ordinary moments, when shared intentionally, become meaningful. While the pasta boiled, I watched him carefully measure spices. He tasted the sauce and adjusted it slowly. There was care in that movement. Care is a love language rarely shown on social media. My earlier disappointment started to feel exaggerated. I realized something uncomfortable about myself. I had equated financial display with emotional security. If the dinner looked impressive, I would feel reassured that we were progressing. But true security does not come from one night. It comes from consistency. Consistency is less glamorous. It looks like showing up daily. Paying bills responsibly. Listening after long workdays. Supporting each other when English conversations feel overwhelming. There is another phrase I want you to practice. We are building something. Say it slowly. We are building something. Building is gradual. It requires patience. It requires planning. It does not always look exciting from the outside. When we finally sat down to eat, the meal was simple. Pasta. Salad. Water. No candles. No expensive wine. But the room felt warm. Not because of luxury. Because of effort. Effort is invisible currency in marriage. As I looked at him across the table, I asked myself a new question. If we went to a luxury restaurant tonight but avoided honest conversation, would that really feel more loving? The answer surprised me. Probably not. Because an expensive date can still hold an empty heart. And a simple kitchen can hold a full one. The night I almost gave up. Giving up does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like sitting quietly at a kitchen table in America, staring at a plate of pasta, smiling politely, while inside you are exhausted from translating your thoughts all day. Exhausted from comparing. Exhausted from pretending you are stronger than you feel. That anniversary night, after dinner, I washed the dishes slowly. The water ran warm over my hands. The house was quiet again. My husband went to take a shower. I stood there longer than necessary, just listening to the sound of water hitting ceramic. And a thought appeared. Maybe this is too hard. Not just the anniversary. Not just the simple dinner. Everything. Learning English as an adult immigrant in the United States can feel like rebuilding your identity from zero. In your home country, you were confident. You had opinions. You were funny. In a second language, you become slower. Simpler. Less expressive. That gap between who you are and how you can communicate creates deep frustration. Identity disruption is real. Psychologists describe it as a temporary loss of self-coherence. When your external abilities do not match your internal sense of self, your brain experiences stress. Chronic stress weakens motivation. That night, motivation felt thin. I thought about the job interviews where I could not find the right vocabulary fast enough. I thought about the conversations where I laughed a few seconds too late. I thought about how long fluency was taking. Then my mind moved to marriage. If everything feels difficult, maybe I am not strong enough for this country. Maybe I am not strong enough for this life. Maybe I am not strong enough for this relationship. Notice how the brain links unrelated challenges together. Language difficulty becomes relationship doubt. Financial pressure becomes emotional insecurity. This is called cognitive fusion, when separate problems merge into one overwhelming story. The story in my head was simple: I am failing. Let me give you a sentence to practice. This is temporary. Say it slowly. This is temporary. When repeated intentionally, this phrase can calm the nervous system. Research in emotional regulation shows that reframing a situation as temporary reduces the intensity of negative emotion. But at that moment, I did not reframe anything. I felt small. In American culture, independence is highly valued. Strength. Self-reliance. Achievement. When you move here, you unconsciously absorb that energy. If you struggle, you may feel like you are not meeting the standard. I dried my hands and sat down again. The kitchen light felt too bright. The silence felt heavy. My mind whispered something dangerous. It would be easier to stop trying so hard. Stop pushing. Stop expecting growth. When people consider giving up, whether in language learning or relationships, it is often not because of one big failure. It is accumulated micro-frustrations. Small disappointments stacking up quietly. Neuroscience explains that repeated stress without sufficient reward lowers dopamine levels. Dopamine is linked to motivation. If your brain does not experience enough visible progress, it reduces effort. My brain was tired of delayed rewards. English improvement felt slow. Financial growth felt slow. Emotional stability felt fragile. Even our anniversary felt smaller than expected. I looked at my reflection in the dark kitchen window. For a brief moment, I imagined a different version of life. Going back home. Speaking freely. Feeling understood without effort. That fantasy lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then another thought appeared. If I leave, what will I learn? Avoidance feels relieving in the short term. But long-term growth requires discomfort. This is supported by resilience research. People who persist through moderate stress develop stronger coping mechanisms and higher long-term satisfaction. The key word is moderate. Not extreme. Manageable challenge builds strength. Was this challenge manageable? I thought about my husband in the shower, humming softly. He had not criticized me. He had not failed me. He had cooked with me. Laughed with me. Listened when I finally expressed disappointment in imperfect English. The problem was not him. The problem was the pressure I placed on myself. Let me give you another phrase. I can learn. Repeat it. I can learn. This statement shifts identity from fixed to growth-oriented. According to psychologist Carol Dweck's research on growth mindset, believing abilities can improve increases persistence and long-term success. Language is learnable. Communication is learnable. Marriage skills are learnable. I realized something quietly powerful. I was expecting fluency and emotional stability without allowing myself to be a beginner. Beginners feel uncomfortable. Beginners make mistakes. Beginners move slowly. And that is normal. When my husband returned to the kitchen, he saw me sitting there. He asked gently, "Are you okay?" This time, instead of saying I'm fine, I said, "I feel tired." Not of you. Just tired. Clearer. Honest. Imperfect grammar. Real emotion. He sat down beside me and said, "We don't have to figure everything out tonight." That sentence released something inside me. Pressure often comes from believing everything must be solved immediately. In reality, most stable marriages are built over time, not solved in one conversation. Giving up would have been easier in that moment. But easier is not always better. I took a deep breath and said slowly, "I don't want to quit. I just feel behind." He nodded. "We're not racing anyone." Not racing anyone. That sentence dismantled my comparison mindset more effectively than any motivational quote online. Progress in America does not follow one timeline. Fluency does not follow one speed. Love does not require one style of celebration. That night, I almost gave up. Not loudly. Quietly. And sometimes the strongest decision you make is not dramatic. It is simply choosing to stay. A simple kitchen moment. The transformation did not arrive with fireworks. It arrived with garlic. The next evening, we decided to cook again, this time without the emotional weight of expectations. No silent comparisons. No invisible scoreboard measuring our success in America. Just two people in a small kitchen, standing shoulder to shoulder. There is something quietly powerful about cooking together. In relationship psychology, shared tasks increase what researchers call collaborative bonding. When two people work toward a simple goal, chopping, stirring, seasoning, the brain registers teamwork. Teamwork builds trust. Trust builds security. Security is more romantic than candles. As I sliced vegetables, I focused on something different, language in real life. Instead of worrying about perfect grammar, I practiced describing what I was doing. I'm cutting the onions. The water is boiling. This smells good. Simple present tense. Clear pronunciation. Real context. Language learning experts emphasize contextual learning. When vocabulary connects to physical action, retention improves. Your brain creates stronger neural pathways because multiple senses are involved: movement, smell, sight, sound. That kitchen became my classroom. Let me give you a sentence to repeat slowly. Learning happens in small moments. Say it again. Learning happens in small moments. While stirring the sauce, I asked him, "How was work today?" My question was simple but intentional. Instead of rehearsing a perfect sentence in my head, I allowed natural conversation. He answered. I listened carefully. Not just to the words, but to the rhythm. American English flows differently than textbook English. It connects words smoothly. I began mimicking that rhythm gently, without forcing it. Pronunciation improves through exposure and imitation. Linguists call this phonological adaptation. When you consistently hear natural speech patterns, your brain gradually aligns with them. It does not happen overnight. But it happens. Midway through cooking, he handed me a spoon and said, "Taste this." I tasted the sauce. It needed salt. Maybe a little more, I said. That tiny exchange felt surprisingly meaningful. I gave input. He adjusted. We collaborated. No tension. No comparison. In marriage, micro-interactions matter. Research from the Gottman Institute shows that small positive responses, like acknowledging your partner's suggestion, predict long-term relationship stability more than grand romantic gestures. When he added salt and smiled at my approval, something shifted in me. The night before, I had seen simplicity as lack. Now I saw it as participation. Participation creates belonging. And belonging was what I had been craving, not a restaurant reservation. The kitchen light reflected softly off the counter. Music played quietly in the background. No one was watching. No one was evaluating. There was no performance. Performance is exhausting. Authenticity is restful. Let me share another phrase. This feels right. Repeat it. This feels right. That sentence is powerful because it connects emotion with intuition. Sometimes we overthink love and language. But feeling matters. As we moved around the kitchen, I noticed how naturally we coordinated. He reached for plates while I drained the pasta. I grabbed forks while he poured water. No instructions needed. Just rhythm. That rhythm mirrored something deeper. In America, life can feel fast. Careers. Bills. Deadlines. Immigration paperwork. But in that moment, time slowed down. We were not competing with anyone's timeline. We were not proving anything. We were simply living. I realized something surprising. Expensive dinners often remove couples from their natural rhythm. Waiters interrupt. Background noise distracts. There is subtle pressure to look polished. In our kitchen, we were unfiltered. Unfiltered love is honest love. While eating, I tried something new. I expressed appreciation directly. Thank you for cooking with me, I said. Clear. Simple. Intentional. Gratitude has measurable effects on relationships. Studies show that expressing appreciation increases relationship satisfaction and reduces conflict over time. Gratitude shifts focus from what is missing to what is present. My earlier disappointment began to feel distant. He responded, I like doing this with you. Doing this. Not buying this. Not displaying this. Doing this. Action over appearance. Let me offer one more practice sentence. We are enough. Say it slowly. We are enough. That phrase is not about settling. It is about grounding. In that kitchen, surrounded by ordinary objects, plates, knives, a stove, I felt something expensive. Peace. Peace does not cost a reservation fee. Peace is built. Language learning is similar. You do not become fluent through one intense weekend of study. You become fluent through repeated exposure, daily conversations, small corrections, small victories. Marriage thrives the same way. After dinner, instead of feeling disappointed, I felt connected. The food was not extraordinary, but the experience was. That simple kitchen moment dismantled a belief I had carried quietly, that love must be impressive to be real. Impressive fades. Intentional remains. As I washed the dishes again, I noticed my thoughts were different from the night before. There was no urge to escape. No urge to compare. just a calm awareness. Maybe simple love is not a downgrade. Maybe it is refined. And maybe the most meaningful anniversary celebration is not the one people post online. It is the one that strengthens two people quietly, behind a closed kitchen door. Real English in real life. Fluency did not arrive in a classroom. It arrived between the stove and the sink. That was the surprising realization after our simple anniversary in America. I had been treating English like a subject to conquer, grammar rules, vocabulary lists, pronunciation drills. But real progress began when English became part of daily life, especially inside my marriage. Language lives in context. The kitchen conversations, the small disagreements, the shared laughter, those moments were not interruptions to learning. They were learning. Research in second language acquisition consistently shows that meaningful interaction accelerates fluency more effectively than isolated memorization. When language carries emotion, the brain encodes it deeper. Emotion activates the amygdala, which strengthens memory consolidation in the hippocampus. In simple terms, if you feel something while speaking English, you remember it better. Our anniversary week became my emotional language lab. Instead of studying random sentences like "the cat is on the table," I practiced real expressions. I feel overwhelmed. Can you explain that again? I appreciate you. These sentences mattered. They were useful. They carried emotional weight. Because they mattered, I remembered them. Let me give you a powerful practice sentence. I want to understand. Repeat it slowly. I want to understand. This phrase is essential in both language learning and marriage. It shifts focus from defending yourself to connecting with someone else. One night, while talking about future plans in the United States, I did not understand one of his explanations about taxes. In the past, I would nod and stay silent. That night, I said, I want to understand. Can you say it more slowly? That small sentence changed everything. When you ask for clarity instead of pretending comprehension, anxiety decreases. Cognitive science explains this clearly. Uncertainty increases stress. Clarification reduces it. By asking him to repeat himself, I reduced my own mental overload. Real English practice does not require perfection. It requires participation. I began creating simple daily habits. After dinner, we would spend 10 minutes talking only in English about our day. No pressure. No correction unless necessary. Just natural conversation. If I did not know a word, I described it. For example, instead of freezing because I forgot the word exhausted, I said, I feel very tired inside. Communication happened anyway. Circumlocution, the ability to describe something when you lack the exact word, is a key fluency skill. It builds flexibility. Native speakers use it too without realizing. I also started watching American shows differently. Instead of passively listening, I repeated phrases aloud. I copied intonation. I paused and mimicked emotional delivery. Pronunciation improved not because I forced it, but because I immersed myself in rhythm. Let me share another sentence. It doesn't have to be perfect. Say it slowly. It doesn't have to be perfect. Perfectionism blocks fluency. Studies show that fear of mistakes activates the brain's threat response, reducing language output. When you relax standards slightly, output increases. Marriage operates similarly. If you expect perfect communication, you will feel disappointed often. If you allow imperfect but honest conversation, intimacy grows. During that anniversary week, I noticed something fascinating. The more I focused on connecting instead of performing, the more confident my English sounded. Confidence is not about accent elimination. It is about emotional presence. Accent is not the enemy of clarity. Anxiety is. I began practicing slow English. Speaking slightly slower than normal. Pausing between thoughts. American listeners appreciate clarity more than speed. Slower speech also gives your brain time to organize structure. One evening, while discussing our long-term goals in the United States, home ownership, family planning, career stability, I expressed myself for almost 5 minutes without switching languages. My grammar was not flawless. But my message was clear. That moment felt bigger than any textbook achievement. Because it was real. Real English is not about passing exams. It is about expressing your fears, your hopes, your gratitude, your frustration. It is about saying, I love you and meaning it clearly. Let me give you another powerful phrase. Thank you for being patient. Repeat it. Thank you for being patient. Gratitude reduces relational tension and reinforces supportive behavior. When I thanked him for listening to my slower speech, he smiled and encouraged me more. Supportive environments accelerate language acquisition. According to sociocultural learning theory, language develops most effectively in collaborative interaction. In other words, you learn faster when someone supports your growth instead of judging it. That is what our kitchen became. A safe zone. Not a performance stage. Not a competition arena. Just a shared space where English and love developed side by side. I realized something profound. I did not need an expensive anniversary to prove we were succeeding in America. I needed consistent communication. And communication is built through repetition, vulnerability, and patience. The more I practiced English through daily life, the less heavy it felt. It transformed from a barrier into a bridge. A bridge between cultures. A bridge between frustration and understanding. A bridge between doubt and connection. Language stopped being something I had to master before living. It became something I could practice while living. And maybe that is the most powerful lesson. Real English grows in real life. Right between the stove and the sink. Cultural differences at home. Marriage does not only join two people. It joins two cultures, two childhoods, two invisible rulebooks about how life is supposed to work. Living in the United States made those invisible rulebooks visible. Before moving here, I assumed love worked the same everywhere. Respect your partner. Support each other. Stay loyal. Those values are universal. But daily expression of those values? That depends heavily on culture. In American households, independence is emphasized early. Children are encouraged to express opinions, question ideas, and make personal choices. Individual preference is respected. In many other cultures, harmony and collective decision-making are prioritized. The family unit comes first. When these two approaches meet under one roof, small misunderstandings appear. For example, decision-making. Back home, I was used to discussing big decisions with extended family. Parents, relatives, community. In the United States, couples often make decisions privately. My husband once said, "We should decide what works best for us." For us. That phrase felt empowering and isolating at the same time. Let's practice it. What works best for us? Repeat it slowly. What works best for us? This sentence represents a key value in American marriage culture, partnership autonomy. At first, I struggled with that responsibility. No external approval. No outside validation. Just the two of us choosing. Cultural adaptation theory explains that immigrants experience internal tension when traditional values conflict with new societal norms. That tension is not weakness. It is adjustment in progress. Parenting expectations also differ. In many American families, children are encouraged to speak openly about emotions. Use your words. Tell me how you feel. Emotional literacy is emphasized. I admired that. But it also felt unfamiliar. I grew up in an environment where emotional restraint was seen as strength. Here, emotional articulation is strength. Language plays a central role in this shift. If you cannot articulate feelings clearly in English, you may feel less competent as a future parent in this culture. That fear crossed my mind more than once. Would I be able to guide a child through American school systems? Would my accent confuse them? Would I feel confident speaking with teachers? These questions were not dramatic. They were quiet and persistent. Research in immigrant family psychology shows that language proficiency strongly influences parental confidence. When parents feel comfortable in the dominant language, they report higher engagement in their children's education and stronger family communication. That realization motivated me differently. Learning English was no longer about personal pride. It was about future stability. Back in our kitchen, cultural differences showed up in daily routines too. Time management, for example. American culture values punctuality and scheduling. Calendars. Reminders. Appointments booked weeks in advance. My previous lifestyle was more flexible. Plans shifted easily. Here, missing an appointment could mean financial penalties. We once argued about arriving 10 minutes late to a gathering. To me, it felt minor. To him, it felt disrespectful. Neither of us was wrong. We were simply carrying different cultural assumptions. Cultural intelligence grows through curiosity, not defensiveness. Instead of saying, "This is how I've always done it," I began asking, "Why does this matter here?" That question changed conversations. Let me give you another sentence to practice. Help me understand your perspective. Repeat it slowly. Help me understand your perspective. This phrase reduces conflict by inviting explanation rather than resistance. Gradually, I noticed something powerful. We were not losing our original identities. We were building a hybrid culture inside our home. We kept certain traditions from my background, specific foods, certain holiday rituals, ways of showing hospitality. At the same time, we adopted American practices, clear budgeting systems, shared household responsibilities, direct emotional check-ins. Hybrid identity is common among immigrant couples. It is not confusion. It is integration. Integration strengthens resilience. When you successfully blend values instead of choosing one over the other, you create flexibility. Flexibility reduces long-term relational stress. One evening, while discussing long-term plans, house ownership, career development, possibly raising children in the United States, I realized something unexpected. Our simple anniversary dinner was not a sign of limitation. It was a symbol of adaptation. We were practicing American partnership culture, shared labor, shared responsibility, shared decision-making. No performance. Just collaboration. Let me share another practice phrase. We are learning together. Say it slowly. We are learning together. That sentence applies to language, marriage, and cultural adjustment. America often celebrates independence, but strong marriages here thrive on interdependence. Two individuals choosing to build one stable unit. As my English improved, I felt more comfortable navigating cultural differences. I could ask clarifying questions. I could express discomfort without sounding defensive. I could explain my background more clearly. Clarity reduces cultural tension. Silence increases it. Looking back, I understand that many of my early frustrations were not about love itself. They were about translation, of language, of expectations, of cultural habits. Translation takes time. But once you accept that time is necessary, pressure decreases. And when pressure decreases, appreciation increases. Our home in America did not look like a perfect movie set. It looked like adaptation in progress. And adaptation, when done with patience, becomes strength. Small actions, big change. Big transformations rarely announce themselves. They hide inside small, repeated actions, actions so ordinary you almost ignore them. In our life in the United States, progress did not come from one dramatic anniversary decision. It came from tiny habits we practiced quietly after that simple dinner in our kitchen. Psychology calls this the compound effect. Small behaviors, repeated consistently, create exponential results over time. Language learning works this way. Marriage works this way. Even financial stability in America works this way. The shift began with 10 minutes. Every evening, we committed to 10 minutes of intentional English conversation. No phones. No television. Just us at the table. Sometimes we discussed work. Sometimes we talked about future goals. Sometimes we revisited childhood memories. 10 minutes felt manageable. Consistency matters more than intensity. Research in habit formation shows that smaller, sustainable routines are more effective long-term than ambitious but inconsistent efforts. When a habit feels achievable, the brain resists it less. At first, my sentences were slow. I searched for vocabulary. I paused often. But instead of apologizing for my pace, I practiced confidence. Let me give you a sentence to repeat. Give me a second. Say it slowly. Give me a second. This phrase became my shield against panic. It bought time. It protected clarity. Over weeks, something subtle changed. My hesitation decreased. My vocabulary expanded naturally because it connected to real life. Words like budget, mortgage, insurance, career path, long-term goals. These were not random textbook words. They were survival vocabulary in America. Language learning experts emphasize relevance. The more relevant the language is to your daily life, the faster retention happens. Relevance creates emotional urgency. At the same time, we introduced another small action, weekly reflection. Every Sunday afternoon, we asked one simple question: what went well this week? That question redirected attention from problems to progress. Positive psychology research confirms that focusing on small wins increases motivation and strengthens resilience. One week, my small win was answering a phone call without fear. Another week, it was asking a follow-up question at the grocery store. Small victories, documented intentionally, rewire the brain to recognize growth. The brain's reticular activating system begins noticing progress instead of failure. Marriage benefited too. Instead of waiting for big romantic gestures, we acknowledged small efforts. If he took out the trash without being asked, I said, "Thank you." If I organized paperwork for taxes, he noticed it. Gratitude multiplied stability. Let me share another useful phrase. I appreciate that. Repeat it slowly. I appreciate that. Appreciation reinforces positive behavior. In relationships, what gets acknowledged gets repeated. We also adjusted how we handled conflict. Previously, tension escalated quickly because I interpreted comments through insecurity. Now, when something bothered me, I practiced structured expression. I feel stressed about money, not because of you, but because I'm afraid of falling behind. Clear subject. Clear emotion. No accusation. Communication researchers emphasize that clarity reduces defensiveness. When people feel attacked, they protect themselves. When they feel informed, they collaborate. Collaboration became our new pattern. Another small habit involved pronunciation practice during routine tasks. While cooking or cleaning, I repeated challenging words out loud. Comfortable. Opportunity. Responsibility. Repetition in low-pressure environments improves muscle memory in speech production. Speech fluency depends on motor coordination. Your tongue and mouth need repetition just like muscles in the gym. Marriage also requires repetition of positive behaviors. Date nights did not suddenly become luxurious. Instead, we created simple rituals. Friday movie night at home. Saturday morning coffee together. These rituals built anticipation and consistency. Predictable positive experiences increase relational security. Security reduces comparison. Comparison had been my silent enemy. Once I stopped measuring our life against curated social media moments, peace grew naturally. Let me give you another practice sentence. We are moving forward. Say it slowly. We are moving forward. Progress does not always look dramatic. But forward movement, even slow, creates momentum. Financially, we implemented small structured changes. Budget tracking. Automatic savings transfers. Clear monthly goals. These actions did not make us wealthy overnight. But they reduced uncertainty. Uncertainty feeds anxiety. Clarity feeds confidence. Over months, our communication improved. My English improved. My emotional regulation improved. None of it happened in one breakthrough conversation. It happened through repetition. Repetition builds identity. Instead of seeing myself as someone struggling with English, I began seeing myself as someone improving daily. Identity-based habits are powerful. According to behavioral science, when actions align with identity, consistency increases. I was no longer trying to prove we were successful in America through one impressive anniversary. I was building quiet evidence daily. Evidence is stronger than performance. One evening, months after that simple kitchen celebration, I noticed something surprising. We were laughing more. Stress still existed, work deadlines, bills, long-term planning, but it no longer felt overwhelming. Why? Because stability had accumulated quietly. Small actions had compounded. And here is the most important lesson. Love does not grow because of one expensive night. It grows because of consistent effort in ordinary days. Language fluency does not appear because of one intensive study session. It appears because of daily exposure. Let me leave you with one final phrase for this section. Small steps count. Repeat it slowly. Small steps count. In America, success stories often highlight dramatic leaps. But most real growth, whether in English, marriage, or life, happens in inches, not miles. And inches, repeated daily, change everything. The breakthrough moment, when English finally feels natural. There is a powerful turning point in every English learning journey. It does not arrive with fireworks or dramatic music. It happens quietly. One day, you realize you understood a full conversation in English without translating in your head. You answered a question naturally. You felt confident speaking. That is the breakthrough moment. For many learners in the United States and around the world, improving English listening skills and speaking fluency feels slow at first. Progress can seem invisible. You study vocabulary. You practice pronunciation. You repeat sentences. Yet sometimes it feels like nothing is changing. The truth is, your brain is building connections every single day. Growth is happening beneath the surface. Then one day, something shifts. You are watching an English conversation practice video. The speaker talks at a natural speed. Instead of pausing and translating, you simply understand. Your mind does not panic. Your ears catch the rhythm of American English pronunciation. You recognize common phrases. You even predict what the speaker will say next. That is when English listening practice turns into real comprehension. This breakthrough often surprises people. Many learners believe fluency requires perfect grammar. They think they must memorize thousands of advanced words before they can speak confidently. In reality, fluency grows from repetition, exposure, and consistent English practice. When you listen to slow English stories daily, when you repeat simple sentences out loud, and when you shadow native speakers, your brain adapts. Language learning is pattern recognition. The more you hear natural American English, the more familiar it becomes. Common expressions like "I'm not sure," "that makes sense," or "I'll think about it" stop feeling foreign. They start feeling automatic. Your tongue moves more easily. Your pronunciation improves without force. Your speaking confidence increases because your brain trusts the patterns. This is why daily English listening practice is so powerful. Short, consistent sessions are better than rare, long study days. 10 or 20 minutes of focused listening to slow English stories can strengthen comprehension faster than cramming once a week. Repetition trains your ears to recognize connected speech, reductions, and natural rhythm. American English pronunciation often links words together. For example, want to becomes wanna. Going to becomes gonna. When you hear these patterns repeatedly, they stop sounding confusing. Your breakthrough moment often includes confidence. Confidence is not about knowing everything. It is about feeling comfortable with what you know. You may still make grammar mistakes. You may still forget vocabulary. But you continue speaking. You do not freeze. You do not apologize for your English every minute. That mental shift changes everything. Confidence creates more practice. When you feel less afraid, you speak more. When you speak more, your fluency improves. When your fluency improves, your motivation grows. It becomes a positive cycle instead of a frustrating one. That is the transformation many English learners dream about. Another sign of progress appears in your thinking. At the beginning of your journey, you probably translated every sentence from your native language into English. This is natural. However, real fluency develops when you begin thinking directly in English. Simple thoughts like "I'm tired," "I need coffee," or "this is interesting" appear automatically in English. This mental habit speeds up conversation skills dramatically. Thinking in English reduces hesitation. Instead of searching for translations, you respond naturally. Your speaking becomes smoother. Your listening comprehension improves because you are no longer stuck translating previous sentences while the conversation continues. You stay present. You react in real time. Pronunciation improvement also plays a big role in this stage. Clear pronunciation is not about sounding exactly like a native speaker. It is about clarity and rhythm. Stress patterns in American English matter more than perfection. When you practice sentence stress and intonation, your speech becomes easier to understand. Native speakers respond more positively, which increases your confidence even more. Many learners noticed their breakthrough during real-life situations. Perhaps you order food in English without anxiety. Maybe you join a conversation at work. Maybe you understand a podcast without subtitles. These moments feel small to others, but they are huge victories for you. They prove that your English learning strategy is working. Consistency is the secret behind this success. English conversation practice, slow listening exercises, and daily repetition build strong neural pathways. Your brain becomes faster at decoding sounds. Vocabulary moves from passive knowledge to active use. You stop studying English and start living in English. This is when motivation changes. At the beginning, motivation may come from pressure. You need English for a job. You need it for school. You need it for travel. After your breakthrough, motivation becomes internal. You enjoy understanding. You feel proud speaking. You look forward to improving even more. However, this is not the end of the journey. Fluency is a continuous process. Even advanced English learners keep improving vocabulary, pronunciation, and comprehension. The difference is that now you trust yourself. You know progress is possible because you have experienced it. If you are still waiting for your breakthrough moment, do not lose hope. Every listening session matters. Every repeated sentence matters. Every small conversation matters. Your brain is adapting even when you cannot see it. Improvement in English listening and speaking skills often feels slow before it feels fast. Stay consistent with your English practice routine. Focus on clear pronunciation. Listen to natural American English every day. Repeat aloud. Shadow speakers. Build confidence step by step. One day, without warning, you will notice the change. You will understand more than you expected. You will speak without overthinking. You will smile because English no longer feels impossible. It feels natural. And when that moment comes, you will realize something important. You were improving the entire time. Building long-term English fluency, turning practice into lifestyle. Real English fluency is not built in 1 week or 1 month. It grows through daily habits, focused listening, and consistent speaking practice. Many learners reach a breakthrough moment and feel excited. They can understand more. They can speak with less fear. Words often blend together in fast conversations. What are you becomes whatcha. Did you becomes didja. Understanding these patterns improves listening comprehension dramatically. Regular exposure to real American English conversations reduces confusion and builds confidence. Tracking progress also helps maintain motivation. Keep a journal of new phrases you learned this week. Record yourself speaking once a month and compare recordings. Notice pronunciation improvement. Celebrate small wins. Progress becomes visible when you measure it. Plateaus are normal. At certain stages, improvement feels slow. You might feel stuck. This does not mean you are failing. It means your brain is consolidating knowledge. Continue practicing consistently. Small daily effort breaks plateaus over time. Community can accelerate growth. Joining English conversation groups, online speaking clubs, or language exchange programs provides real interaction. Real conversations challenge listening skills and spontaneous speaking. Interaction builds adaptability, which is essential for real-world fluency. Mindset influences results more than talent. Believing that English fluency is possible changes behavior. Instead of thinking English is too difficult, shift to English is improving every day. This mental adjustment encourages persistence. Persistence leads to results. Fluency also includes cultural awareness. Understanding humor, tone, and informal expressions improves communication. Exposure to American culture through media, interviews, and real conversations enhances comprehension. Language is not only vocabulary and grammar, it is rhythm, emotion, and context. Rest is part of learning. Your brain needs time to process new information. Sleep strengthens memory connections formed during English listening and speaking practice. Balanced routines prevent burnout and maintain long-term motivation. Over time, English becomes less of a subject and more of a tool. You use it to learn new ideas. You use it to connect with people. You use it for professional growth. When English becomes functional rather than academic, fluency strengthens naturally. The transformation from beginner to confident speaker does not happen overnight. It happens through daily repetition, focused listening, intentional speaking, and consistent exposure to natural American English. Long-term English fluency is not about studying harder. It is about studying smarter and staying consistent. Keep listening every day. Keep speaking, even when it feels uncomfortable. Keep improving pronunciation step by step. Keep building vocabulary through stories and real conversations. Months from now, you will notice something powerful. English conversations will feel smoother. Listening comprehension will feel faster. Speaking confidence will feel natural. You will respond without translating. You will express ideas clearly. You will trust your ability to communicate. And at that point, English will no longer feel like a challenge you must overcome. It will feel like a skill you truly own. Final closing, a new beginning starts now. This is not just the end of a lesson. This is the beginning of a new version of you. Every minute you spent practicing English listening. Every sentence you repeated out loud. Every time you pushed through hesitation and spoke anyway. That effort is changing your brain. Fluent English is not magic. It is momentum. And right now, you have momentum. Your English listening skills are sharper. Your pronunciation is clearer. Your speaking confidence is stronger than it was yesterday. And here is the truth most learners never realize. The difference between intermediate and fluent English is not talent. It is consistency. If you continue daily English listening practice, if you keep training with slow English stories, if you keep repeating natural American English pronunciation patterns, your fluency will compound. Just like interest in a bank account. Small deposits. Big long-term growth. One day soon, you will understand a fast English conversation without subtitles. You will speak without translating. You will respond naturally. And someone will say, your English is really good. That moment is coming. But here is something even more exciting. This channel is not just about learning English. It is about transforming how you think, speak, and connect with the world through English conversation practice. In the next videos, you will train with Advanced Listening Comprehension Challenges, Real American English Conversation Simulations, Powerful Shadowing Exercises for Pronunciation Improvement, Confidence-Building Speaking Drills, Story-Based English Learning designed for natural fluency. Each video is carefully designed for real results, following the most effective English learning strategies for 2026 and beyond. If you are serious about improving your English speaking skills, do not stop here. Subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss a new English listening practice session. Consistency creates fluency. And fluency creates freedom. Also, leave a comment below and tell us. What was the most difficult part of learning English for you? Reading your experiences helps shape future lessons focused on real challenges like pronunciation, vocabulary building, and natural conversation flow. If this lesson helped your English listening and speaking confidence, give it a like. It supports the channel and helps more learners discover effective English practice methods. And here is something important. Do not wait for motivation. Create discipline. Even 15 minutes of daily English listening practice can change your speaking ability within months. Imagine where your fluency will be in 90 days if you stay consistent. Your future self is watching you right now. The confident English speaker. The person who speaks clearly in meetings. The traveler who communicates effortlessly. The professional who unlocks global opportunities. That version of you is built through small daily decisions. Start tomorrow. Better yet, start today. Replay this lesson. Shadow the sentences again. Practice the pronunciation one more time. Fluency belongs to those who keep going. And this channel will be here, guiding you step by step, with structured English listening practice, clear American pronunciation training, and real conversation-based learning. The journey continues in the next video. Your English is improving. Your confidence is growing. And your breakthrough moment is closer than you think. Subscribe. Stay consistent. Keep practicing. Let's build real, natural English fluency together.